Yeah. So, anybody, anything to ask or anything you have in your mind? You want to? Yes?
Ishan, in the context of our mindfulness meditation practice, could you go over again what is meant by all things are conditioned?
All things are conditioned. Conditioned. Here, is there any entity that is not conditioned at all? Everything conditioned arises. So nothing arises with a single cause. Everything comes with something else coming together, and that's how it is conditioned. If you look at our body, it is also conditioned, created. Okay? And here, if you look at the body, the single whole entire body, again, it's a combination of the four elements. From the biologic perspective, 4 elements. And these 4 elements, again, it comes together, and that's how it is formed as this body. And the same with our mind. Our mind also conditioned by so many factors. As I said in my reflection this evening, that mind is always in the flux, always changing, and this is because of the other factors coming into it. And in a conventional level, when we look at things, again, nothing will remain the same. It will change all the time. And that change is possible simply because of the combination of so many other things conditioning to arise it. Now, in the practice of a meditation, we practice to notice that conditioning, not from the material perspective, but from the mental perspective. So, one thought, let's say when we see something, in order to see the color, the shape, it needs to be conditioned. Right? So I sees the object, and that is conditioning to see that one. And here again, in order to see that one, if there is no consciousness, then we won't see that object at all. So, likewise, everything is interconnected and interrelated, and that's how it is created over and over again. So there's a continued creation. And here, because of that, it's continue creating, we always need something to rely on. We always need something to think on. We always need somewhere to do. That's why we're constantly doing something. And this continuation again will continue because there is a desire that we want to make it happen. We want to change it. As soon as we see the object, as soon as we hear the sounds or anything that we come to contact with the 6 senses, then there is the desire to change it, desire to move on to it. And with that, we're creating more. And this creation again, there are 3 ways of creating, or creating or conditioning. So that is called creating from physical action, creating from speaking, and creating from thinking. So we're creating new things with the contact that we come across. If there is no contact, and we haven't got this consciousness, put it into that, to realize that, then we will not be creating something to carry on. And with that creation, that's how we are creating furthermore. So conditioning to continue our journey, right? Like that. And whereas the practice of a mindfulness meditation is basically noticing that each and every things are conditioned, created. So each and everything that we are observing, that we are seeing, that we continue happening is simply conditioned by something else. If that condition is removed, that won't be there. That entity won't be there. So that is what we are looking at it. And ability to remove those conditioning that we are conditioning it to, let it be as it is, then basically we become a person simply observer. And the ultimate is which is a bit scary, which is kind of a very dry, that we since we still have this sense of I-ness, a mindness, this is me and a mine. The ultimate is that there is no conditioning and conditions. And then there will be no furthering, because you are not creating. And with that completing, it's like, then the question comes, then what happened? Then who am I? Then what will be? And then the question will be, what is the purpose of meditating then, since I'm going to be nothingness? Right? Like that. So the state becomes, it's like the simile is, suppose you point to the torch on the sky. The light will reach as long as you can see there are some other elements that's around in the wind, or in the space, or the dusts. Suppose there is nothing that can touch the light, then we won't be able to see the light, right? And yet there is nothing to observe, right? We can just see the light. So our mind becomes in a state of simple light. That's called illumination, right? Illuminating, and that's a knowing. So everything we simply know as the dots. Everything is created, conditioned, it comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. And we see it in such a rapid motion of it. And with that, this rapid motion, it simply becomes a current. And similar to the light, that is also a current coming, arising. So rapidly happening that. That's why we have to pay for the electric bill, because it's rapidly happening. So it's conditioning to make it happen. We simply do not know that continuation is happening. Similar process happens in our mindset and our consciousness, and then we see that, and it's become a light that we see everything in that way. But this mind hasn't got anything to make it to continue with something else. And with that, it's like the torch. You are pointing at the sky, which is nothing, just knowing what's happening. Then eventually the battery runs out. You haven't charged the battery, and it's not connected to the supplier. Then what happens? Battery runs out. Now, where do you think the battery runs out? Why do you think the battery runs out? So that's because there is no supply. There is no conditioning this battery to continue. And that's how the state called the Nibbana comes. Unconditioned state. So before that, we simply know it as everything is simple inner dots, and like a continuation of a creation and a fading, coming, going, coming, going, coming, going. So in a Buddhist term, it's called Upada Titi Banga. So arises, remains, vanishes. Arises, remains, vanishes. And this three stages of arising, remains, and vanishes, actually this 3 stages happens if extended a little bit. There is a the term given, the chitta viti, which means the conscious, I don't know how to translate that, but basically it means that the way how the mind works, the way how the mind conditions. And this conditioning process, in a short form, again, that was the first short form, 3 stages, right? Arises, remains, and vanishes. And then the second way of looking at it, there is a saying, there are 17 stages happens in one set. This arising, remains, and fading. 17 stages. Okay? And the 17 stages again, each stages are comprised with this coming and arising, remains, and going. Arising, remains, and going. So that's why it's in a nano level of conditioning one after another, one after another. And now the practice of a mindfulness meditation, I'm not saying that we can't see that, we can't observe that. In a basic term, we're simply knowing whatever we come across and whatever we become mindful, it doesn't last long. It's going to change because that is conditioned. That's all is needed. And by knowing that, then gradually as you develop your practice, and then slowly, by bit, you will be able to link the dots. Why I am having this, why I am having that, why it is happening this, why it is happening that. And by end of the day, after you understood in this way, what happens is that, then what is the meaning of holding it? So let it be. It's like you will be able to see it as like a very disgusting thing that you are having. That's why I use the simile of a toilet. Once you finished your job, will you be thinking of that? You won't. Why not? Because you know that's so disgusting. Simple as that. And then just let it be. And not only you are not thinking of that, you even know that it shouldn't be left like that, and you need to flush it away. So practice of a mindfulness meditation is simply to not only knowing that this is disgusting, you have to let go of it, so flush it away. The matter is, can you flush it away? Sometimes we think we know, but we can't flush it away. Right? We know that that is not good, and still holding on to no. Right? And which again we do have a lot of stories of this, particularly in the West, from my own experience that I found. Like many grannies, they will keep they will keep little tiny things, put it on the altar and saying, oh, this is given by my grandchild, this child, so precious. So we'll kept there, and holding on to it, not allowed to touch, not allowed to move. And if you move them, oh, it will be big trouble. So like that. So that's why I say it's not a matter of what it is a matter of how we are dealing with that. So practice of a mindfulness meditation, that's why it's not about dealing of what, it's dealing of how you are dealing with it. That's the thing. And once you know, just flush it away. And which is most of the case, that many people know that I am suffering from this, suffering from that, and then they still can't let go of that because they're still holding on to it. There is a lady, she was, I don't want to name her, Seed knows. Seed knows that gambling is not good. She knows gambling is not good and it is causing a lot of trouble. She knows, but she can't let go. So like that. Similarly, with this way, we all have that some sort of a attachment to things, and yet we know it, that this is the main root cause of the problem, and we don't want to let it go. So practice of a meditation, a mindfulness meditation, simply ability to recognize that these are happening to me and make your own choice. You want to continue or you want to be free. So you got the choice. So allowing you to recognize and then also giving you the power to change it. It's in your hand. Yet there are some people come to me, Achan, can you pray for me so I can be free? Like that. Then I cannot say I can't. So I simply have to say, okay, I do, and so I will do the chanting and okay, bless you. So like that. And having said that, this is again, it's not a misunderstanding. They can think of only this way of get rid of the problem. At least for the temporarily, they will get relief from it. So that's why the rituals and the performance of all these offerings and things, sometimes people see it as a wrong practice. Actually, we have to think from their level so that we understand they have that way of feeling free and happy. So the practice is simply to recognize and ability to make your own choice to be happy, finding a way to deal with that. Right? So that is Sankhara. Right? And the definition for the Nibbana that the Buddha gave, or the completion of no Sankharas, as Buddha said, that all the Sankharas have been relinquished. Or Sappa Sankhara Samatho. Every Sankhara has been completely settled. And that is the state of the Nibbana. The Etang Santang, Etang Panitang, Sappa Sankhara Samatho. Like that. So, coming back to the topic of the 4 foundations of a mindfulness, the first one is called the mindfulness of the body. The second one is called the mindfulness of the feelings. Third one is called the mindfulness of mind. And the fourth one is called mindfulness of the mind factors, or sometimes it is translated as phenomena, or sometimes it is translated as a mind object. So pretty often I found now in someone who has studied Dhamma, the Buddhism, they normally use it straight away rather than any translation. Say mindfulness of the Dhamma, which is very difficult to translate. So in the mindfulness of the first one, the mindfulness of the body, it has quite a strange beginning. It starts off the breathing meditation. So mindful of the breath. And then mindful of this breath-body relationship. And with that mind-body relationship, then gradually goes into the mindfulness of the the movements or your physical postures. Mainly 4 postures: sitting, standing, walking, and lying down. But that's the broad way of looking at it. And then after that, going into the minor activities that we normally do. So even like raising a hand, going to the toilet, eating, walking, like that. But here, these are just the classification of a basic examples. There is a main word that is given in whichever state of your body is being mindful. Whichever state of your body is, be mindful. That's all. Right? And with that mindfulness, what happens is that gradually we began to understand that actually this body is not mine. I have not control over it. It will be decaying, it will be get sick, and eventually it will die. So we will become able to comprehend in that way. So that's why after that, then it comes under the practice is like this whole entire body is made out of different parts of the body, starting from hair of the head, hair of the body, like that. So it goes on into the 32 parts. And after the 32 parts, again, after we have investigated all these 32 parts of the body, then realize when it dies, or when we leave this body behind, this body decays in a different forms. So that is the way of practicing a mindfulness meditation, of contemplating this body. So that's why a practice of a mindfulness meditation is not just one way of practicing, different ways that you can follow and practice. What's strange is that in the practice of a mindfulness meditation on the body, in our tradition starts from the breath. Right? So basically you come and sit down and watch the breath. Whereas the same discourse recorded in China, same discourse, the order is different, differently ordered it. So in that discourse, again, it starts from physical activities, so 4 postures. So mindfulness of your 4 postures, and then the minor activities. And after you have the 4 postures and the minor activities, and then you become mindful of the breath. And when I contemplate on that, then I realize that there is a possibility that it could be a way of practicing mindfulness meditation rather than straight away starting from the breathing meditation. So in a normal life, we cannot practice breathing meditation straight away because our mind is always constantly changing, moving, working. In order to settle this down, we need to narrow it down by doing something else. So some other activities. And here, that's why I think starting from this 4 bodily postures helps to narrow it down, so that we don't have to force ourselves to pay attention to the breath. But we become mindful as we walk, as we sit, as we stand, and as we lying down. So we try to be mindful of our physical body postures in a different forms. And with that, it helps to minimize furthermore activities of the mind, and with that we become more aware when we are walking, how we are walking. We become more mindful of our right and left foot. When we are moving a right, and how our body posture moves. When we are moving to the left foot, how our body posture changes, in which way, which direction, like that. So we become mindful of minor activities in these ways, and gradually we become more subtler. Our mind becomes more subtler, and with that it will be much easier to watch the breath. Okay? And then this breath, so we can use it as a form of a practice in everyday life. After we have trained properly, it becomes a part of our practice. Okay? And so with that, then gradually we can contemplate this anatomical body, and then not only from the perspective of an anatomical body, but also seeing it as a part of this, seeing as object that is going to decay despite whether we like it or not. And eventually we have to leave this body. So with that we are developing this dispassionate or dispassion, not holding this mind, this body as mine. So practice of a mindfulness of the body, although pretty much people are paying attention to the body as a form of a meditation, actually this body is simply a tool. Right? Not the one, but a tool to work done. Right? It's not the one, but it is a tool that we are using to work done. Right? So that's why this becomes a foundation to develop our mindfulness more stronger. So with that, then we will be able to use that tool to purify ourselves more and more, and developing more positivities more. Okay? So I think I will stop here for tonight, only on basic principles of mindfulness of the body. Even this, I think it's pretty hard now, heavy enough for you to grasp and contemplate probably, or take into practice. Okay, anything before we move on to the loving kindness practice? Any insightful thoughts on that, or questions, or what Ajahn is saying? Nonsense. Huh?